All right. We are all busy people, so I'm going to cut to the chase. You can be more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And that's saying something, considering you work for a company that creates access to pretty much all of the knowledge of humankind, can influence the future of humankind, and probably knows what kind of underwear I put on this morning. And for who? No spoilers. So glad to have you here with us today. And, I do have some information to tell you on personal power. And Angelo gave a lot of really nice comments in his introduction, but I will tell you that being an actress and working in television and speaking at any of these places, that doesn't give you the kind of power that you might think. I'll never forget the time that I was on my way to my very first convention, my first Star Trek appearance, and I was so excited that I was on this show and I was probably going to be recognized and sign autographs and all that. And so you ever have those days when you're running out of the house and you've got wet hair and you think it's okay because I'm not going to see anybody, and you've just got your sweats on, and that's the day you see everybody, right? Your boss, your ex-boyfriend, the person you'd like to date, everybody's suddenly there. Well, I was having one of those days because I was at LAX and I'm checking in my box of pictures. And on the outside of the box of pictures, here we go, is a picture of what's inside the box, which is all of the Ferengi, that's these guys with the ears, holding Lita up, kind of Betty Grable style. And the guy checking in my box looks at me and he looks at the picture on the box and he looks back at me and he says, "Whoa, are you on Deep Space Nine?" And I get all excited to be recognized. And I said, "Yes." And he looks at me and he says, "Girl, you look good on TV." Yeah, so I said, "Oh, thank you." And then the people behind me started whispering and they said, Star Trek, is she on Star Trek? Let's ask her. "Excuse me, miss, are you on Star Trek?" And I got all excited to get recognized, and I said, "Yes." And they point to the picture on the box, and they said, "Are you inside one of those Ferengi heads?" And I said, "No, there's this thing called lighting, and okay, makeup, and okay, Spanx. And, here we are. And it's okay, because I'm normally a pretty happy person, I'd say. But in 2005, I became a clinically depressed, self-destructive, alcoholic ball of rage after a traumatic incident due to bullying. Now, until then, I'd been a lifelong actress, singer, and dancer. I'd worked hard and I was successful. DS9 was the #1 syndicated show in the world, and I was recurring on 2 other shows at the same time. So yeah, this is what the public saw. Some people have actually told me that I was your screensaver. Don't show me your hands, no show of hands, please. But appearances can deceive. What the public didn't know is that my life was being destroyed, and no one felt more powerless than I did. Sometimes I called suicide hotlines. I'm 12 years sober now. But what happened? When I got the role on Star Trek, fans asked me what charity my fan club would like to support. See, all the actors had fan clubs that supported their favorite causes, and which was mine? The answer was easy. I'd volunteered for Caring for Babies with AIDS, which was a house where these kids lived, kids who didn't have anybody else left. My fan club actually became their largest private contributor. Now, in the course of all that, I had a nice routine lunch with some fans in Germany, and we took pictures, and in asking for copies of the pictures, I made the mistake of giving one of those fans my home address. This fan soon decided he wasn't getting as much out of his fan club membership as he wanted, so he decided to list me on an international dating service, matchmaker.com, without my knowledge or consent. He listed pictures of me and a list of my acting credits and sexual invitations. He listed the fact that I lived alone with my son, and he listed my home address. He also listed an email address where you could email me, but he would get it and correspond with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men. I subsequently received a fax in my home fax machine from somebody threatening to brutally stalk and rape me and kill my son. And of course, we knew he had our home address. My son and I were terrified. I was only a recurring actress. We couldn't afford to move. I didn't have the money. We were never rich. We had a 2-room apartment. We didn't have security. My son was afraid to go to school. I was afraid to go to work. We were both afraid to go home. And no one even truly understood. It was 1999, and to my knowledge, I was the very first person doxxed. I filed a lawsuit. Matchmaker had published this false information without any signature, no credit card, no proof that it was me. The lawsuit lasted 5.5 years. The opposition actually said that he was trying to purposely incur extra costs so that I would drop the suit, but I didn't. I never wanted this to happen to anybody else, ever again. Their justification for all of this? Free speech. I contended that my home address, in combination with invitations to sexual violence, was not free speech. We lost. The judge said public figures are not entitled to the same respect of privacy as are private figures in regards to defamation. So, because of what I do for a living, just because of my job, it was okay to enable people to lie about me and invite people to attack my son and me in our home. Then, Matchmaker sued me for their legal fees and won. I lost everything, including crucial career momentum as an actress over 30 in Hollywood. I was shattered. So yeah, rage, depression, anger, alcohol, shame, more than I can describe. But about this time, all through this time really, there was a line from Star Wars that started echoing in my head. It's where Obi-Wan, sorry, Trek fans, it's where Obi-Wan says to Darth Vader, "If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." Okay. Somehow in 2007, I got sober. And my friend Judith said to me, "If you really want to feel better, go help people that have it even worse than you." Now, I was so ragefully angry that I couldn't think of anybody who was angrier than me, except maybe gang members. Thankfully, I live in Los Angeles, where Homeboy Industries is the world's largest program for gang intervention, where nothing stops a bullet like a job. Now, these kids were born into gangs, with their parents in gangs or in prison or overdosing in the living room. Homeboy is not only their last chance. If you grew up how these kids did, it's also their first chance. Now, my friend Richard Blacker was a self-help author who wrote a wonderful book called Finding Your Path Through Life, about just doing the next right thing to get your life together. So he and I went to volunteer, teaching a class to kids coming straight out of prison about how to get their life together. What nobody knew was that I wasn't there to try to save their lives. I was there to try to save mine. I didn't tell them I was an actress, but every time I met one of the homies, I would say to him, "Hey," there would be this look from him like, "Huh?" Like my friend Marco here. I'm a little white blonde girl from West LA. What am I going to tell him? I looked into their faces, despised, demonized, forgotten. And all I could say was the truth. I don't know why the world works the way it does. Why you live in a war zone, dodging bullets, half jokingly planning your funerals while other kids get to plan for college. I don't know why some of us won the birth lottery. I don't know why you didn't. But I know what it's like to be afraid to go home. I know what it's like to be so angry that I want to hurt myself and other people. And I know what it's like to get my last bit of strength together. And all I can say is, together, maybe we can try to make life better. And so we did. And every time I would meet a new homie, I would say, "What's your number?" And I would call him right then. And I would say, "Look, here's my number in your phone. If you need anything or you just want to talk, call me, okay?" And not once have I ever had my phone number abused. And not once have I ever felt afraid. See, turns out that these homies are more decent people than some ordinary citizens turned out to be. Appearances can deceive. One of those homies was Vance. I call him Ad Vance because he is so well reformed. But society would never think that Vance could ever amount to anything, much less be a hero. He became one at Homeboy. But before Homeboy, Vance was head of the Crips on the street, and then he earned that position in Folsom State Prison. I never asked the homies what they did to land in prison, but I did ask them how they got involved in their lives of pain. And every single one of them told me the same thing. They lived in fear of rival gangs. Vance got bullied on the playground, so he and his friends formed a little gang to keep up with the bullies, and they grew, and the bullies grew, and they grew, and they grew, and everyone's tactics got worse, and they got absorbed into the Crips. You see, hurt people hurt people, but heal people heal people. And I realized that if the homies can end their bullying and violence, that so can the rest of the world. I started thinking about the nature of bullying. You know, if somebody is bullying you, that has nothing to do with you. That is always, always about the pain and fear inside the bully, right? And I realized that bullying is the same on every level, whether it's playground or school or the workplace or relationships or terrorism or gang membership or war. It's always the same. It's a power imbalance. It's oppression that does not belong in human lives. People choosing to do harm because they've been harmed and they feel justified. But we can learn to change what we choose. I'm not just thinking this up. I'm not just saying it. I lived it. I saw the homies do it. And I saw them see the changes in myself. Meanwhile, to make a living, I'm still Chase Masterson, Star Trek poster girl. Yeah. And the cognitive dissonance was madness. Okay. On the weekends, I entertained at these conventions where hundreds of thousands of people would gather to celebrate these billion-dollar properties with epic battles with fictional bullets flying. On weekdays, I was working with the disenfranchised but determined kids who were dodging real bullets, just half an hour from Hollywood. And I started to think about the disparity. I developed burning questions. How can we use justice on screen to make justice happen in real life? How can we harness the power at these conventions and these stories to help people who would be heroes like Vance if just given half a chance? The beginning of the answer came in the form of a little girl named Katie, who you might have heard about. Katie loved Star Wars, but she was bullied for bringing her Star Wars lunchbox to school. Now, all the boys would follow Katie around and say, "You can't like Star Wars, you're a girl." Well, right, ladies? Katie was very upset. She went home and she cried and she told her mom, Carrie Goldman, that she just wanted to bring her pink lunchbox. She wasn't going to love Star Wars anymore. And Carrie, her mom, said, "Katie, you get to be you. Don't you ever let anybody tell you who to be." But Katie was really upset. So she cried and went to sleep. And her mom wrote on her blog, "Hey, if anybody out there has been gender bullied or has been bullied for any real reason, could you just say a few encouraging words to my daughter?" Well, Huffington Post picked up the blog, and thousands and thousands and thousands of us responded. I was one of countless people that said, "Katie, you get to be you. I'm a woman. I'm a girl who loves Star Wars. I love science. I love science fiction. You get to be who you are." Well, Katie kept her Star Wars lunchbox, and she even became a role model for other little girls who love Star Wars. I introduced her to my friend Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, so now little Katie, who was bullied in first grade, is friends with the real Chewbacca. Don't mess with us. Carrie saw that bullying is an issue that almost all of us have dealt with on a lot of different levels, so she decided to write a book. HarperCollins bought her book. Bullied won awards, and Carrie asked my help getting her book into Comic-Con. And that's when it all clicked. I said, yes, let's get your book into Comic-Con, but let's do more. Let's use these stories to end bullying in all its forms. Let's get everyone we can involved in pop culture and anywhere else and form a coalition. Look, if people can spend $1.3 billion on Star Wars tickets in opening weekend, it's because we love heroes, right? Let's be those heroes in real life. Well, I got off the phone and I was like, oh, geez, what did I do? A coalition. I don't know how to form a coalition. What even is that? What do I do now? I have no idea. And I thought, wait, okay, who do I need if I'm going to form a coalition? The United Nations, right? They do that kind of thing, right? So I looked up their number online and I called them, as you do, and I somehow got on the phone with the president of the United Nations Association, San Diego, and I said, hi, my name is Chase Masterson, and I'm calling you, I was on Deep Space Nine, and I'm gonna do a coalition to end bullying, and you guys do that, right? With countries. And I said, so we're gonna go to Comic-Con, and would you like to join us? And she said, oh my God, we've always wanted to go to Comic-Con. So that's how it began. Pop Culture Hero Coalition is the first ever organization to make a stand using TV, comics, and film for real-life heroism over bullying, racism, misogyny, LGBTQI+ bullying, cyberbullying, and other forms of injustice. We use stories that kids and adults love to teach real-life heroism, to teach empathy and resilience and other skills we need. Since then, we've officially featured the United Nations, Amnesty International, the No Hate Campaign, and other social justice organizations at their first pop culture conventions, making the difference and motivating kids and adults to become superheroes in real life. In 2015, there was a mass shooting near a school in San Bernardino. The kids heard the shots ring out. It was about a half a mile away, but there was police tape everywhere. The school was on lockdown. Kids couldn't go home. Parents couldn't come and pick them up. Bullying and trauma had all increased. And I heard this on the radio. And I called the school and I said, who's helping your kids with trauma? And they said, no one. Well, somebody had to do something. But what qualifications do I have? Well, I knew what trauma was. I could relate, I had empathy, and I was willing, that was all. So we brought 2 pop culture fluent clinical psychologists out there, and we worked with the kids. We also brought a woman named Alejandra, who I had mentored at Homeboy to become a counselor, and all 3 of them worked with those kids using Batman and Luke Skywalker. Both characters had overcome trauma that they'd experienced as children and made their lives better instead of worse. And we worked with these kids and made a huge difference and gave them hope and saw the hope in their eyes, and the bullying and the trauma decreased. Then somehow we caught the attention of Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and at the suggestion of their founding director, we teamed up with those psychologists to create the Heroic Journey curriculum. It's now officially in schools. It's a 32-lesson plan program that uses these stories that kids love to teach healthy identity, both to the victims and to the bullies. Our curriculum is being implemented in as many schools as we can afford, and it teaches inclusion, emotion regulation, conflict resolution, alternatives to addiction, ending bullying and violence. It's even been used by a nonprofit in Vietnam to help kids who have been rescued from human trafficking. My dream is to revolutionize the way that we teach in schools so that we can teach empathy and resilience and other crucial mental health skills. Look, we need to teach these at an early age. But teaching and education should not be colonialism. No, we're meeting kids at their water cooler and talking about stories that they love to talk about. And yeah, this way, we can make this a world where we can all live long and prosper. Wonder Woman said, "It is my sacred duty to defend the world." But if you looked at Wonder Woman's life, or Batman's, or Harry Potter's, or Luke Skywalker's, or any superheroes, you'll see that they weren't fully ready when they began. Look, superheroes are just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. If you told me when my story began that I would ever even be okay, I wouldn't have believed you. If you told me that I would find meaning and joy at Homeboy, or that I would find purpose in forming a coalition, or that I would be standing here at Google now, and that all of you would care so much, I would never have believed you, and I'd have been scared to death. But you know what? Every hero has an origin story, one that usually begins with doubt and powerlessness and fear. And if you're feeling doubt, that's part of your origin story. I hope hearing my story today can maybe help you see how you can change lives, how you can change even your own life with your own superpowers. Maybe you'll join the coalition. Maybe you'll work with us in this work. Maybe we'll team up. Look, yeah, the world can seem dark and hopeless sometimes, but appearances can deceive. And in rising to our own personal challenges, in just doing the next right thing, we find our superpowers. And then, yeah, you can become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Thanks. Thank you. Live long and prosper, guys. And may the force be with you.
I noticed that you brought these amazing comic books with you
Thank
today.
you.
Could you go into a little bit of detail about what these are about and how we can all take something away from them?
Yes. Super Kids is the world's first interactive mental health comic book. I had the pleasure of producing this, and it was written by Dr. Janina Scarlett, who is actually herself a trauma survivor. She came to the U.S. as a child refugee from Chernobyl, having experienced severe radiation and chronic pain, and all that entails, but actually fled the Ukraine because of anti-Semitism. She became a neuroscientist and a psychologist, and has written this book, which we commissioned her to write, to help children who are in hospitals suffering from cancer and other serious illness through loneliness, anxiety, depression, and fear. So we're taking mental health skills to kids who are also suffering from other circumstances that we can't possibly imagine. And we made this book in honor of Len Wein. He was a dear friend of mine. He was the creator of Wolverine and Swamp Thing and Storm from X-Men. And Len first read comic books when he was 7 years old, and he was hospitalized. And his father handed him a bunch of comic books and said, "Here, keep busy, kid." And Len said that that is where he formed his moral code. And it's true, you know, these stories have incredible transcendence for us, really incredible meaning, and that's why they're so popular. So we created our own. And we teach these kids that they have healthy identity beyond their actual illness. This is available in hospitals. We've actually also got it translated into Spanish, Italian, and German. Those versions aren't out yet, but we're happy to get this to any child you know who needs it.
So I also wanted to turn this back around on you a little bit here.
Thank
I noticed
you.
that in this comic, there's 2 questions, and I'd like to ask you them if that's okay.
Oh, you're wonderful.
One is, who is your favorite hero, and what do you admire about them?
The people on our team are my heroes. Pop Culture Hero Coalition has an amazing team of volunteers. We could not do this work without their tireless work. Dr. Janina Scarlett, the psychologist, is one of them. Carrie Goldman, who is my co-founder, who's Katie's mom, is another one. And these are some of the creators of our curriculum. It's also our team in other areas too. Angelo, your work as an attorney has helped us immeasurably. We couldn't do this without you. Rochelle, as Director of Operations, we appreciate and need your work so much. It's all about team. That's what's important, and that is what makes this work. I'm a volunteer. Most of our team are volunteers, and I'm incredibly grateful that we're able to keep going and do this work. You know, I've got other heroes too, if I might say. My heroes are bullied kids that we work with, that come back, that are able to put it aside and say, you know what, that's not about me. It hurts, but I'm gonna go on because I know I'm worth it. And my mom, I had good parents, my mom and dad. I'm grateful. But for kids who don't have good parents, we're there, teaching them self-compassion, teaching them that they're worth sticking around for, that their lives can matter.
And then the second part of that was, if your favorite superhero knew everything you've been through and could talk to you for a few minutes, what would they say to you? Or what are some words of advice that you've received?
Wow. If my favorite superhero could talk to me, she would say, I'm proud of you for getting up in the morning through your pain. I'm proud of you for just taking the next right step and not getting afraid of the distant future or even of tomorrow or sometimes even of this afternoon. I'm proud of you for the resilience that you're showing and grateful that it's extending to other people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for such a wonderful, honest talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really resonated.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you found any ways to, through your work, any good techniques for reaching out to, I guess, the bulliers and the people who, you know, on that side, who don't understand the pain that they cause to other people, because they're a very large part of the problem too. And so have you found any effective ways to get through to them?
That is such a crucial question. It's not just about the victims. It's also very much about the bullies. And this work addresses that. Mentally healthy people don't bully each other. Mentally healthy people uphold each other's rights and uphold their own. And so it's extremely important to remember, if you've been bullied or when you see bullying happen, that this has nothing to do with you. Look, I mean, I don't care if you weigh 800 pounds. If somebody's calling you fat, that's not about being fat. It's because that person's being an asshole, right? Let me do one more thing, okay? What's your name? Andre? Hi, Andre. Okay, so here's a piece of shit. Are you gonna take it? No, don't take it. You don't have to take it. It has nothing to do with you. It's not yours, you didn't ask for it. It's completely foreign. And that's the thing, is that when bullying happens to us, we're sensitive people and we want to be loved. That's how we're made up as humans. And so we do listen to crap and we absorb it. No, you don't have to take it, you don't have to absorb it into you, and you certainly don't have to ingest it. right? And that's the thing. It's always about the bully. Hurt people hurt people. But healed people heal people. And what I've found is that there is incredible power. I wasn't just saying that about power and about your personal power and being more powerful than you can possibly imagine. I'm saying it because those of us who have been bullied, who have been in trauma, who've been hurt in any ways, have a choice. We can either be hardened and angry, or we can be hardened, angry, and find our way to having self-compassion and empathy for other people who have been hurt, and reaching out to them and going beyond our anger and our own pain and saying, I know what you've been through, and I'm going to be here for you. And I've come through it at least a little, and if you grab my hand, I'll help you. Your pain brings you to a place of empathy. And I just want to encourage you guys to reach into that. If you see injustice in the world, you know what it's like, so you can help us stand up against it. That's power. It's way more powerful than being on television or even speaking at Google or TED or the UN, is when you are able to stand up in the moment and say, not on my watch. I'm here for justice. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.